Good afternoon. Nikolai Filipovich Batyuk was a representative of that generation of military commanders who were destined to fulfill a particularly important historical task: to stop the advance of German troops, experience the jubilation of the first triumphs, and sacrifice their lives for the fatherland. This commander harmoniously combined three invaluable qualities: military determination, courage, and loyalty to the ideals of the party. He could be strict, but remained just. He was both respected and feared. He was not afraid to speak the truth to anyone's face, be it a superior or a subordinate, even if that truth was unpleasant. His reports did not require additional explanations or verification. They were always distinguished by their accuracy, Marshal Chuikov said about him. Nikolai Batyuk was born on December 19, 1905, in the city of Akhtirka, Sumy region. In 1927, as a Komsomol member, Nikolai Batyuk, refusing a legitimate privilege, joined the ranks of the Red Army. Over 16 years, he rose from an ordinary Red Army soldier to division commander. Nikolai Filipovich's personal life was also happy. Together with his wife, he raised 4 children, 2 sons and 2 daughters. At the beginning of the Great Patriotic War, he took command of the 89th Regiment of the 23rd Rifle Division on the Northwestern Front. His units did not have time to occupy defensive positions and were forced to begin combat operations under unfavorable conditions. Despite this, the division reached its concentration area on time, and the 89th Regiment, being in the vanguard, immediately went on the offensive. The enemy could not withstand the regiment's swift attack and began to retreat in disarray, leaving weapons, dead and wounded on the battlefield. In that difficult summer of 1941, Major Batyuk also experienced the bitterness of retreat. His regiment was twice encircled and twice broke out of the enemy ring with fighting. Even in the most difficult circumstances, Nikolai Filipovich found ways to inflict tangible losses on the enemy. Once, on the Seversky Donets River, his regiment captured an active enemy crossing and took up defensive positions. However, the division in which he fought retreated, and the regiment, finding itself surrounded, offered fierce resistance to the Germans for several days. When Batyuk led his soldiers back to their own lines, the division commissar accused him of intending to surrender the entire regiment. The investigation was short. Batyuk was sentenced to death. His shoes and belt were removed, and he was placed against a tree. Nikolai Filipovich held himself courageously, did not beg for mercy, did not bend his knees. But fate decreed otherwise. At the last moment, a group of soldiers saved their commander. When the situation calmed down somewhat, the higher command recognized the actions of the regiment commander as correct. Subscribe to our channel. Give us a like to hear many more interesting stories about World War II and learn the perspectives of all sides of the conflict on certain events. In the autumn of 1941, Nikolai Filipovich was promoted to the rank of lieutenant colonel, and in February 1942, he was appointed commander of the 284th Rifle Division, formed from Siberians. At the end of May, the division was incorporated into the 40th Army and sent to Kosternoye Station, west of Voronezh. By order of the commander, the division began to create the Kosternoye Defense Hub, 4 to 6 kilometers west of the station. It was assumed that in the event of a breakthrough of the front, the retreating units of the army would take up defense on the flanks of the 284th Division. But this did not happen, and Nikolai Batyuk's regiments were surrounded. Destruction seemed inevitable. In this critical situation, Nikolai Filipovich made an extraordinary decision. The divisional artillery was to fire directly at enemy tanks and infantry. This was very dangerous. The division could lose its artillery, but the risk was justified. It was this powerful fire that helped the division break out of the encirclement. The whole country learned about this heroic event from the Sovinform Bureau report published the next day in the Pravda newspaper. At the beginning of September 1942, by order of the Stavka, Soviet High Command, the division was sent to the Stalingrad front. On the way to Stalingrad, Batyuk wrote to his family, "Hello, dear wife and children. I am going where I planned. My spirits are high. And you live, don't worry unnecessarily. Save your nerves, I will return. We will live happily. Please take care of the children. Let them study. They need to think about the future. I think I will fulfill the tasks, as I have always fulfilled them. I will do my duty. I will give the motherland everything I can and know." On September 21st, Batyuk, along with reconnaissance soldiers, was one of the first to cross into the city, engulfed in flames, to assess the complex situation. Soldiers and commanders fought under the motto, "Victory or death." Everyone felt the enormous responsibility for the fate of the city, the country, and the entire people. The division's losses were extremely heavy, and the division commander was looking for a way out of the situation. Commander's experience suggested to Batyuk, to minimize losses in battle, it was necessary to operate in small groups, not only in the city but also on Mamayev Kurgan. The Army Command noted the division's combat successes in the first battles for Stalingrad. In September 1942, German troops managed to capture most of the Kurgan with water towers. Batyuk's division was tasked with holding Mamayev Kurgan, which had become the epicenter of the battles for Stalingrad. The task was extremely difficult, as the division was in an unfavorable tactical position. From the top of Mamayev Kurgan, the enemy controlled our entire rear. Under these conditions, Batyuk had to build a defense in such a way as to not only prevent the further advance of the Germans to the Volga, but also to recapture Height 102.0 with the water towers. The heaviest fighting continued until the end of October, when our soldiers repelled 10 to 12 attacks, and the German troops advanced only a few meters, covering the ground with hundreds of bodies of their soldiers and officers. On October 3rd, the Krasnaya Zvezda newspaper reported, "The Germans repeatedly went on the attack, but all their attempts to break through were unsuccessful. The units under the command of Comrade Batyuk repulsed all attacks, inflicting significant damage on the enemy. Under heavy fire, the Germans were forced to hastily retreat to their original positions." In October, Nikolai Batyuk was twice summoned to the Army's political department, where he was demanded to carry out Stalin's Order number 227, but the division commander firmly stated, "I answer with my head for the steadfastness of the soldiers of my division. Even my wounded do not want to leave the front line. So why create blocking detachments for such reliable soldiers and commanders?" For Nikolai Filipovich, a soldier was not a faceless cog in a machine, but a human being in the highest sense of the word. Nowhere does a person learn as quickly and persistently as in war. At the front, they said, as is the commander, so are his subordinates. This was also the case in the 284th Rifle Division. The Komsomol members of the division enthusiastically developed the sniper movement. The division commander quickly realized the advantages of the new sniper tactics and ordered unit commanders to unite snipers into groups of 3 to 4 people and use them on the battlefield as a mobile reserve. It is difficult to imagine the combat work of Lieutenant Colonel Batyuk. He was promoted to colonel on October 17th without the division headquarters, without experienced and competent assistants. He knew how to select staff officers who understood their commander perfectly. Nikolai Filipovich had the pronounced character of a strong personality. There were times when he could not and did not want to forgive confusion and cowardice in battle. Perhaps the strictness and demandingness of the military leader Batyuk were due not so much to his character as to the cruelty of the war. A smile rarely appeared on his serious face. "I am always dissatisfied with myself," a short phrase from a front-line letter. But how much it says about the personality of Nikolai Filipovich. Dissatisfaction with his work, the constant search for new ways to solve combat missions. This is the hallmark of Batyuk. He was demanding, sometimes harsh, but always fair. In November 1942, they wanted to transfer the division across the Volga, but Batyuk made every effort to convince the members of the Military Council and Army Commander Chuikov to leave the division in its occupied positions. And he succeeded. The division justified the trust. It made a particularly large contribution in the final stage of the Battle of Stalingrad. Army Commander Chuikov later wrote, "This is one of those steel divisions that ground down the enemy forces, creating the conditions for the counteroffensive of our troops." For 52 days, Batyuk's division fought heavy battles for the top of Mamayev Kurgan. The height changed hands repeatedly. After several unsuccessful attempts, Batyuk made a decision to take the water towers by attacking with several assault groups, reinforced by artillery, machine guns, and anti-tank rifles. And on January 11th, the red flag, the symbol of victory, was raised on the top of the Kurgan. After the war, it was this flag that the veterans of the division called their victory banner. In early February, Nikolai Batyuk was awarded the Order of the Red Banner. This was his first award. Such was his military fate. And soon, by decision of the Council of People's Commissars of the USSR, Nikolai Filipovich was awarded the rank of Major General and the Order of Kutuzov, Second Class. In early March 1943, the Division of Guards Major General Batyuk was transferred to the Southwestern Front. The guardsmen of the division participated in the crossing of the Seversky Donets and then entered into battles in the Golaya Dolina area. These bloody battles were the last in the bright and tragic fate of Division Commander Batyuk. The division commander's heart, worn out in the battles for Stalingrad, could not withstand the strain of new battles. Nikolai Filipovich died on July 27, 1943, in the arms of his comrades in arms. He was buried in the city of Sviatohirsk. Army Commander Chuikov, usually taciturn and reserved, upon learning of the death of his combat friend, which deeply shocked him, said, "He was a hero among us." The name of the commander of the 284th, 79th Guards Division is also immortalized in Volgograd. It is carved on a marble slab on Mamayev Kurgan. One of the city's streets is named after him. In the panorama, the rout of the German fascist troops at Stalingrad, artists from the Grekov studio depicted Division Commander Batyuk at full height at one of the observation posts on the slope of Mamayev Kurgan. Goodbye. We were glad to see you on our channel. Don't forget to write comments, give likes, and subscribe to the channel.